I'm Dan Abbas. I'm a Palestinian from Jerusalem, and I work in the field of cultural heritage preservation with a local NGO called Riwaq. And I'm here today to give you a glimpse of our life here in Kufr Aqab and the history of this space and the way it emerged. Now we're standing on a historical site. It's called Tal al-Nasbeh. It's one of the ancient Canaanite city-states, we call them. It used to be a kingdom. And this site is a preserved archaeological site, but what we see behind us now is part of the encroachment of the buildings of Kufr Aqab above this historic site. In a way, I wanted to share with you this location just to see how the geopolitics in Jerusalem is not just affecting the people who are residing inside the city itself, but it's also creating a new facts on ground regarding the urbanities around Jerusalem. And Kufr Aqab is just one of these urbanities that have been growing bigger and bigger since 2008. Right before the construction of the apartheid wall in the area of rural Jerusalem here. And what used to be a village at the peripheries of Jerusalem is now a huge built-up area, more like a slum, that is emerging at this site. Hi, Min. Hi. بتنادي عليهم. So from here we're exiting Ramallah basically and just entering Kufr Aqab, and instantly you will see how the architecture of the place will change. So from these typical residential buildings to a more high-rise buildings really close to each other, and you can see even how the division between the two roads, instead of having trees and plants, what you see is these concrete barriers. All of this was regulated to be a kayas by the Israeli municipality of Jerusalem. Like even decisions like what kind of barrier to put between the two lanes is a decision that the municipality of Jerusalem did for security reasons. So when they want to close this area, they can close it for good. Not forgetting that at the end of this road, we will be clashing with Qalandia checkpoint. So we can't read this space out of the militarization of the relation between Jerusalem and the West Bank, because for the Israelis, Kufr Aqab is the entry point to the West Bank, so it's a highly militarized area. Regardless, it's a residential zone basically. Maybe when you look at this building, it's a school. It's like the shortest building between these two buildings around. So this is Kufr Aqab Boys School. But before this, during the Jordanian mandate, like in the 50s and 60s, it was a hotel. And it was built nearby Jerusalem airport. So people coming from the airport can stay at this hotel just near Ramallah. And you can imagine before this, Kufr Aqab was a village. So you're talking about landscape, green areas, small villas. So it was a really luxurious area to sit in for a visit to Ramallah and Jerusalem. And this, which was once Semiramis Hotel, and that's why the area here is called Semiramis. When the Israelis came in 1967, they changed it to a military base. And I remember until the 90s, just right in this spot, we had a checkpoint, and they need to check our IDs every time we cross the area of Semiramis. Kufr Aqab was really a luxurious area, and only those who have enough money to leave the old city of Jerusalem and the other areas around the center to build new mansions at these areas. So people who resided in Kufr Aqab area basically were wealthy people. And we can still see some of these early buildings which were built during the 50s and the 60s. It's a totally different typology of the other residential buildings that we see here. And the funny thing, when the Israeli municipality came and decided to give names to the streets, they didn't want to name them after the families. So they used a collection of fruits and vegetables, and now you see the Al-Barquq neighborhood and street and Al-Tuffah street. So they used like these funny names like the Apple Street and the Apricot Street instead of using the names of the families. So it's not only like it's like a double erasure, because you're erasing, it's an erasure of the history of these families in these areas, but also you are erasing the possibility of the newer generation to understand how this place have even been built and made in a way. So this is Al-Zghayr neighborhood.
كانت أيامها 2010 طبعا كفر عقب معزولة عن القدس، صف عنا قدس داخل الجدار وقدس خارج الجدار، وأصبح التنقل معاناة بين الشطرين المدينة من جوا الجدار لخارج الجدار أو بالعكس، معاناة حقيقية. الحواجز كانت مش سهلة، كان في تعمد برأي للإسرائيليين أن تكون الحواجز غير سهلة بين القدس داخل الجدار وخارج الجدار. ليش مش سهلة؟ كانت الفكرة عند الإسرائيلي، كانوا شايفين الهجرة من داخل الجدار لخارج الجدار على منطقة كفر عقب، فكانت الفكرة عندهم أنا بسميه العزل العاطفي، إن بدك تنزل على القدس بدك تعاني، بدك توقف على الحاجز ساعات، بدك تشوف جندي أو مجندة يوقفك يفتشك، ما بدهم إياك تضل على علاقة في القدس. وبذكر كلمة بحب أعيدها دايما في أي إشي لما أحكي عنه، كنت قاعد على البرندة هاي في 2012، فبطلع، ما كانتش هيك البنايات لسه، فبطلع القدس هناك داخل الجدار وأنا في القدس هون برا الجدار، فطلعت معي هيك: بالأمس كنا معا، اليوم هي هناك وأنا هنا، ويا خوفي من غد أن تبقى هي هناك وأنا هنا. وهذا اللي صار خلال 12 أو 13 سنة اللي سكنتهم هون. بنزل على القدس للضرورة فقط، هي الضرورة الصحية، هي الضرورة العائلية، لكن يعني مرتين بالشهر أو 3 مرات. هذا الفصل اللي بحكي عنه، بدك تنزل بدك تاكل هوا، فبالتالي تنزلش، فبتصفي العلاقة بينك وبين القدس غريبة كتير. لأنزل على القدس بشعر إني سايح، وبحب ألف فيها وأشوفها أتذكرها، صرت سايح.
So the story of Kufr Aqab is part of Jerusalem, and what's happening in Jerusalem since it was annexed to the Israeli occupational state in 1967, and we're talking here about the eastern side of Jerusalem. New policies were implemented that merged law and planning as a tool to in a way, manage the number of Palestinian population inside the city. So we're talking about how urban planning became a tool to control the demography inside Jerusalem in favor of its Jewish population. And to do so, you need to get rid of the Palestinian population. And this can't be made unless you use violence in a way or another. We can say that Kufr Aqab is a refugee camp. It's a place for displaced people who had to leave their houses in Jerusalem and find another option. And it's not like any other Palestinian refugee camp that we know. It's not about tents or concrete houses. It's about new buildings with super deluxe finishes, but it gives this kind of limbo and this feeling that you're not sure how long you're gonna stay here. So many people deal with the area as if they are staying here for a while, for a couple of years, and then they discover that they are staying for a lifetime. This is the historic center of Kufr Aqab. This is like a little heaven that have been designed with the municipality, and it's a project that a Palestinian NGO, Riwaq, was leading since 2017. So the historic center of Kufr Aqab was in ruins till the year 2017, until Riwaq came to the site and decided to start one of its strategic projects here in rural Jerusalem, which is reviving the historic center of Kufr Aqab. And in a way, it's a response from the Palestinian community to the situation of this area with its informality and lack of services. And in a way, it looks at the space as a potential space for community, for children, for elderlies, for women, to find spaces of coming together, but also spaces for recreation, for education. And if we look behind us, this building is also part of this bigger plan. This is the Visual Forum Association, which works on the idea of making art a mainstream for people, for children, and for the community. So it's more about visual arts and artistic practices. It's looking at the value of this historic center within the political and the economic and even the social context of Kufr Aqab. This is one of the rare spaces where the community is being served through Palestinian institutions working on ground. So I lived in Kufr Aqab since 2011. It was the time that we decided to get married, me and my husband. And Kufr Aqab was the only place that we can start our family at. Because I have a Jerusalem ID, which is a document that is given by the Israeli government to Palestinians who are originally from Jerusalem. And it gives you like a 10 years temporary permit to reside in the city and in what's so-called the State of Israel. And you have to renew it every 10 years. And to renew this document, you have to prove that you still live in Jerusalem and that Jerusalem is your center of life. So every 10 years you have to prove that you still live in Jerusalem, you pay taxes to the Jerusalem municipality, and you live there, you work there, you study there. On the other side, my husband, he's a Palestinian with a Palestinian nationality and a Palestinian ID. My ID is blue, his is green, so we are also have different color codes here. And he can't go to Jerusalem, he can't live in Jerusalem, he's not allowed to go to the other side of the wall unless the Israelis give him a permit. And to get this permit, it's really hard for Palestinians. You have to have a very good reason so they can say, yes, you can access the other part occupied by Israel. So mainly he can only reside in areas of the West Bank. So Kufr Aqab was the only place where he, as a West Bank resident, can stay without crossing any walls or any checkpoints, and the place where I can maintain my residency as a Jerusalemite who need to keep her only document, because without it I'll become stateless. Like literally I can't leave the place I'm in. So since Since 2011, we started living here, and I think that was the time that I discovered Kufr Aqab. I've been always living across this road. I studied in Jerusalem, and I lived near Ramallah. So I've been always familiar with Kufr Aqab as a space to go through, never as a space to reside in. And for us, it was a totally new experience to be residents of Kufr Aqab and all the challenges that come with it. The idea that it's okay to hear gun shooting at night and just to act as there's nothing happening, because there's drug dealing, there's arm dealing in the area at that time. Now things are much better, I think. You need to accept your neighbors, whoever they are, what culture they are, and sometimes it's really hard because when we talk about the communities of Jerusalem, they are very different backgrounds and very different lifestyles. So it's not easy to get this sense of community all of a sudden. And one mechanism that we did, we were like inviting our families to come and reside in Kufr Aqab like us, because they found themselves also in the same situation. They need to renew their residencies. They need to make sure that they have an address in Jerusalem. So along 3 years, we found ourselves living with my uncle's family just next to us and my parents just one story under us. So it becomes like a family building in a way or another. And once we were like, I have 8 uncles, most of them who lived in Jerusalem. Now all of them, they live in Kufr Aqab. All of them had to leave Jerusalem. And I also raised my kids here and make sure that they got a Jerusalem ID, so they have access to Jerusalem just like me in a way. So that's more or less how I ended up one of the residents of Kufr Aqab. But when we think about the situation, it's not just about Kufr Aqab, it's the overall political situation in Palestine now that makes hope a big effort. And you need to work really hard to find hope in all the challenges that we are facing. And I think the last 3 years, the genocide had brought new realities of our existence and how we deal with it. I mean, before, it wasn't as terrifying as this. We always defined our relationship with the Israelis as a colonial regime, but we're doing well. We know how to maneuver our life. We know the system. We work through it in a way or another. But after the genocide, it revealed again that this is an existential kind of struggle, and you feel sometimes as an individual, you ask yourself, am I fit enough to go through this kind of struggle? Is it safe to keep my children here? Do I really have any future in Palestine, in my country, in Jerusalem, in my city, and even in Kufr Aqab as a neighborhood? Because people who live in Kufr Aqab don't have answer to a very simple question, which is how long would Kufr Aqab stay as part of the Jerusalem municipality? They can and they have the power to revoke our residencies anytime they want. And it's as simple as I can go to the Ministry of Interior and they can tell me, okay, sorry, we don't want to renew your papers. Khalas, that's it. I can do nothing towards it. So also as residents of Kufr Aqab does not really give us the safety that we need as Palestinian Jerusalemites. But at least it gives us a sense of we're still in Jerusalem, whether it's the Jerusalem we want or it's another Jerusalem in a way, what's left of Jerusalem. And do I have hope? Of course I should have hope, because otherwise why are we still here? We have hope. I can see it through the work that we are doing, for example, in Riwaq, renovating the historic center. While we do know that it's a big challenge, we do know that it was really a dream and it didn't come true easily. We were dreaming of renovating Kufr Aqab long since 2011, and only in 2018 that we started the project itself. So hope is the thing that keeps us going, and hope is the thing that keeps us doing things also to our people, because we know they deserve better, we deserve better. And I can see this everywhere in Kufr Aqab. For example, when you enter any residential building in Kufr Aqab, you will find it's like a mini state. Like they have these kind of committees who organize everything. There's a head of committee. They create their own system. They make sure that at least, for example, the stair is clean, the environment is safe for the children inside the building. So you can feel like, okay, there's a lot of things that they can't control in Kufr Aqab, but these small things that they can control, they are controlling it very well. And I think this is hope. As long as we are here, as long that we belong, as long we keep telling our children that this is our place, this is our home, and literally we have no other home. Yani, if I live anywhere outside Palestine, and we do have families that live outside, we know how hard it is to live abroad and to be a stranger and to be a refugee. It's not an easy thing. Here you have your family, here you have your house, and regardless of all the challenges, you still feel you are home, and it deserves all the effort you can do just to keep it as warm as you can. Meanwhile, regardless of the bigger picture and the hard moment that we are living in.